The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the speakers and not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Catholic Charities Eastern Washington. Every person has a story, but not everyone has a place to tell it. I'm Frank Swoboda. I've interviewed amazing people all over the planet. I want you to meet them. This week, the most interesting person you've never heard of is...
Hi, I'm Dena Carr. I'm the most interesting person you've never heard of because I run a low-barrier homeless shelter in downtown Spokane, and I'm studying to become a chaplain to provide hospice care for individuals experiencing homelessness.
Dena Carr, welcome to the most interesting person you've never heard of podcast.
Hi, Frank. Thanks for having me.
People have heard of you. They've heard of you. In fact, I made you partially famous. I made you Spo famous.
It's true. My kids are rolling their eyes right now.
Spokane famous, and I pretty much ruined any privacy that you had.
It's true.
Several years ago in the STCU campaign.
Yeah.
How did you recover? Or have you?
You know,
I did sort of ruin it. You got pissed at later at me, I'm pretty sure.
No, I think that there were a couple nervous moments when we were announcing on this campaign that as a single mother, I had just purchased this beautiful, very recognizable home.
Yes, very recognizable. Yeah. Like, hey, I've seen that house. Yeah. It's super unique. Somewhere in Spokane that we're not going to mention.
So super nervous moment, but I think the redemption story of the STCU campaign for me was the moment that my daughter called home saying, I'm late and I'm not going to make curfew. And I said, you get your butt on the bus right now. And it was the Dena Carr bus that pulled up to drive her butt home. So
wow, that was insult to injury for her.
It was
salt in the wound. Did you ever ride your own bus? Did you ever ride your own bus?
I didn't.
What?
I didn't.
I did all that for you, and you never rode the damn bus?
I give and I give and I give.
Kate Burke was on here, and she totally wanted to be on a bus.
Really?
That was her dream. Yeah, and she didn't even tell us until it happened.
Oh, that is
and
great.
By then, these guys had their stuff together. So you were the first, I think, the first crew on the bus, or one of them, maybe not.
I think
it
was second round.
Second round. Yeah. But they did a big rollout party for all the people at STC's main branch and a lot of the people that work there, and then all the stars. You guys would come up. That crop of stories would come up, and then when it got all done, they walked outside and their bus was there.
Oh wow!
Waiting for them, which was
wow, that's exciting.
It got better. I know you spawned some of that creativity.
They invited us all to ride in the Lilac Parade.
Oh,
together.
That's right.
Yeah, so we had our moment in the sun.
You had your moment in the sun.
I mean, no complaints.
Yeah, that was good. That was very nice of you to do. That's actually how we met, I think. Did I know you before that? I don't think did I?
Yeah, you know what? In fact, this is, I think, how this rolled out is we were new in our friendship.
That's I knew you, and I was like, hey, you should talk to me or something.
And we were at Jones Radiator having a beer, and when I went to pay for my beer with my STCU card,
that's right.
You said, hey,
I pounced.
Have I got an opportunity for you?
That you can't refuse, Dena Carr. And you should have probably, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, you were very smart in your delivery because I was
you were so cool though. You were so perfect. You are so perfect. There's nobody like you. You're completely original.
Well, thank you.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm really
it was
you were
super
so
fun.
Good in that, and that was really a powerful campaign because they had never, I would say, not many brands maybe ever in this market had ever featured a single mom.
Yeah.
Kind of telling a story about a brand ever.
Yeah.
And it was, not risky, but they were back then, this was, and they did have concern about, is she going to be okay? Is this the publicity of this going to, whatever, but I just remember that being you're a pioneer. You were the first of that, which to now sounds so weird and dumb.
I actually never have even thought of it that way.
I think that's true.
Huh.
I think we talked about that. They're I don't know that anybody's ever really featured a single mom in the story. And that's what made it work.
Yeah.
So many people loved it, and that house was just cool. I love those ads. I still think they're great. I mean, the style of them and the way my brother shot them, and they just the music was cool, and your dresses were cool.
It was a crazy time in the market too, where there was not a lot happening in the housing market in terms of getting people into homes.
That's right. And they were just starting to promote their mortgage side.
So I think the notion that a single mom could actually buy a home in a market that wasn't great.
Right.
I understood that to them that was like, oh, this is actually a cool story.
Kind of brave and cool of them to do. They broke a lot of barriers.
Well, they were very brave to help me finance a home.
Well, there's part of it too. And you delivered. You have delivered. You still, That's and then the other part of that campaign I loved was that you tried all kinds of different things. Like we had, I think that was one of them, and then one was I can't stick with anything. But I stick with STCU. I was like, that's still the best little hook ever. Because what did we have you do? Like fence? You were fencing?
I was taking fencing classes at the time.
Yeah.
And
so we're like, you're doing what?
Yeah.
So we just followed you around to really the things you were doing.
Yeah, just all my weird activities.
Weird activities.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really fun.
So then you worked here. I mean, I remember meeting you when you ran Bon Bon, which is still a great bar. You started that.
Yeah.
You invented the Bon. You brought the.
I brought the Bon to the Bon.
You did. You brought kind of classic cocktails back to this town, I think.
Bon Bon was the
first.
First, really. I mean, I think that other bars were doing it, but for Bon Bon to be exclusively selling themselves as a classic cocktail bar was definitely a new thing. And it was really fun because it really fit with the overall vibe of the Garland Theater.
Yeah.
So that was the goal. I was really hired at the Garland Theater to kind of expand the use of the theater and to work to attract kind of a new, fresh audience. And that space had been vacant. And then as part of my interview, they kind of walked me through that space. And I remember just thinking, and I said, this should be a bar.
It is.
And they said, you're hired.
How is it not a bar?
Yeah.
How was it not? It's it's so cool in there.
This is the coolest part about this.
Because you were working actually for the Garland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's right.
And the cool thing about that is it was the original concession stand for the theater.
Okay.
So we literally just replicated the shape of the bar that had been in place.
Is amazing.
And it was really a fun project.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And we also went on canoe trips together.
We did, many.
The first time I thought, this chick's really the only sane person here was we were all camping with a bunch of inebriated people, ourselves probably included, but up to Upper Priest Lake. And for a week or something crazy. And you and I and Johanna, my wife, are the only ones who noticed this incredibly dark cloud heading our way. Because it was 95 and perfect, and everybody's partying and everybody's having a good time.
Yeah.
And I just sort of go, this is Priest Lake, and that's a big dark cloud. We're going to get nailed. Yeah. And you looked over at me we better get to work, man. Remember that? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. It was hustle time.
We're the only ones that were clamoring. Nobody else was even aware, I think.
And I think continued to be largely unaware until the actual downpour. But we were smart. We got all of our gear stashed and covered.
We did. Yeah. I just remember the bar was incredible. That was the biggest bar in Spokane, and it was on. And it was just wow. I think we've all grown up a little. We've all grown up a lot since then. I certainly have.
My stomach hurts right now thinking about it.
It was fun though. It was a little dangerous for sure. So you, speaking of trying things, you now have an amazing job.
I do.
Tell me what you do.
Yeah, I am the director at House of Charity.
So nothing gets easy. You're not trying anything easy. Fencing. You're still trying impossible.
I guess I still like a good challenge. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great job though. You're perfect for it.
Oh, I love it. I really feel like I've found my spot.
You have.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that because when I heard you took it, I'm like, oh, that's good. That's perfect for House of Charity, for Catholic Charities. Is it perfect for Dena? I don't know. Because burnout's got to be just inevitable for anybody at that position. But then I remember talking to you a couple of years ago, right? Not long after you'd been there. You've been there a while, and you said that to me. You looked at me like, this is so perfect for me. I'm like, wow, you found your place.
Yeah.
Well, I just, that's amazing.
Yeah. It's been it's been a crazy ride. I got hired there as the assistant director and maybe did that role for about 6 months. And then COVID broke out. And not long after that, our director at the time had to step down and do something different. So I kind of stepped into that place in the midst of a pandemic, being very new to that world. Really, it had been years since I'd worked in nonprofit. I knew that when my youngest kid went off to college that I wanted to kind of get back into that world and just go a different direction for the next phase of my life. So when that opportunity came up, it was really exciting. And I was excited to be second in command, not to be the boss. And certainly did not anticipate having to step into that role as a pandemic hit the world.
So the parallel of the storm clouds coming from Priest Lake, that's the other thing I thought. Hey man, I saw how you reacted to that. Same thing happened, right? You're kind of built for those. Yeah. You saw it, and then you were able to somehow make it all work, which I'm not surprised by.
Well,
I've seen you in action.
I feel like I'm good in an emergency for sure. Yeah, I've got kind of that Danish sensibility that
calm.
Stay the course, stay calm.
Because we got stuck on a boat one time too. At least once that didn't start in the middle of that lake, trying to get there. And as I recall, I feel like you and I were the only two that weren't like ready to jump off the and thinking we were going to get eaten by sharks. And we're like, dude, there's like a bunch of beer and it's nice and we're stuck in a boat. So
they'll come get us.
We'll be okay. That's probably every day at Catholic Charity.
I actually feel like, Frank, we were stuck on the shore. Everybody else, they were ferrying people up in the boat.
Yeah. Maybe that's
broke
what it was.
Down.
Yes. Well, I was in both of those situations. Yeah. I know I was in the boat out in the water.
We both were.
Yes,
both times. We were boating pals.
We were Gilligan's Island, man. The SS Minnow. We were like stopped. So that has to be. You're right. That sensibility has to help you in what you do, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge? When you started? Let me ask this: when you started there, what did you expect, and what surprised you? You know what I mean? What did you think it was going to be, and how was it sort of different? Because people have a perception of House of Charity.
Sure.
I mean, a big one. It's probably the biggest lightning bolt maybe in this town.
Well, I think in fairness, a lot of what has driven that perception also kind of was informing what I was anticipating when I got hired. And I think a lot of that perception was fueled by a brief experiment providing 24/7 services to the general public. And things, I think anybody would tell you, yes, things were off the hook down at House of Charity. And
at that moment
in time.
Well, of course.
I think it was maybe an 18-month experiment in which they were trying to work with the city to help support the larger need to find spots for people to be and for people to have access to a safe place to be. And
specifically during the pandemic.
This was prior to the pandemic. Probably 2 years before the pandemic. Prior to my starting. But
the increase of homelessness downtown was really kind of hitting its beginning. Heavy beginning. Yeah.
And Catholic Charities wanted to be responsive to the fact that the police and hospitals were looking for places to plug people in, especially kind of in those late hours of the night. And so they were working to be responsive to that need. And I think
trying some stuff.
Yeah, trying some new stuff. And I think nobody was really kind of quite prepared for what that would look like. And it was super challenging for the staff. It was super challenging for the building.
Why? What was the biggest challenge?
I think they were overwhelmed with the amount of need. The number of people that were coming in to utilize services there
nobody expected it,
just was really overwhelming. And then when you have that many people concentrated in a building not designed to support that number of people, there are of course all kinds of issues that are going to crop up, and there are going to be safety concerns. And So, I think everybody feels like it was a good lesson in giving things a try, but I think nobody feels bad in saying that it's not consistent with our mission to be serving people in that way, and so let's pivot and try something new. Back to your question, I think when I got hired, I still had in my mind all like the news stories and the newspaper articles about kind of the
perception that we have
that it was a dangerous,
scary place. Yes. Oh, and I think that perception probably still most people have.
I think that's true.
Yep.
But I think the surprise to me was to realize, there's occasionally some issues that dust up, but there's not a lot different than when I was raising teenagers at home and issues would dust up. It's just stuff that you have to work through and manage. And by and large, we serve everyday people that are incredibly vulnerable, but also incredibly appreciative.
Yeah.
So there's this really cool balance of challenge that speaks to the person in me that likes to dig into a challenge and likes to problem solve and likes to figure out the puzzle.
Yep.
But then there's also all of these ways that I feel I hate this. There's just not a better word, even though it's an overused word. I feel so incredibly blessed every day by the appreciation that is extended to me, both by staff and to the people that we serve. We see lots of stories of changed lives and new opportunities, and we call ourselves the House of 1,000 Chances, which
that's great.
It's such a beautiful story to live into,
right? And
to really embrace.
Well, and when all that hit, I don't think even America probably realized the extent of homelessness, that had sort of been hidden and shoved to the side so we didn't have to see it.
Yeah.
Is that right? And then you guys were like, let's open the doors, and okay,
yeah,
cool, here they come. And they otherwise, it had been really kept quiet. Because we all didn't want to see it. That's my perception. I've dealt with this issue a little bit the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It just, it wasn't in the forefront. And then it just got worse. Pandemic has caused that. Housing costs have caused that. I mean, people just can't, these are people that 2 years before were not in this situation.
Yeah,
but when rent goes from, $600 to $1,600 in 3 years, it's a different game.
Well, especially in a community where the housing market is already incredibly restrictive.
There's nowhere to get a house.
Yeah. So even prior to the pandemic, it was very difficult because the vacancy rate was already really pretty low.
Oh, 1% or something. I mean, it is now anyway.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that definitely has. Yeah, I think it just, the pandemic kind of for a number of reasons, forced the issue of homelessness kind of really into the faces of everyone. I remember when COVID hit, I thought, whoa, that's going to be really hard for that population and at House of Charity. That's going to be really hard, and I don't know the answer to this. Did you lose people did people die from COVID that were there? And if so, that must have been really hard. Or maybe you didn't. I don't know. Yeah, I think that was another big surprise about COVID, is that we were able to adjust our services in a way that, so prior to COVID, how we operated is that we were open in the morning hours from 7 in the morning till about noon to the general public. And we would offer a variety of services.
This is to anybody that needed
a
meal, at least.
Yep, we would offer breakfast and lunch every day. People could pick up mail. We're like an outlet for the postal service, so people can receive mail at House of Charity, and so people would come to get their mail. We would bring providers
primarily
on
people
site.
who are on the street. Yeah.
Yep, but
unhoused.
Even you, if you want to start getting your mail at HOC,
right.
Frank, you can.
Get out of here. All right.
You could.
All right. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, but we would have a variety of providers that would come on site. So we really worked to be like a one-stop shop for people that were experiencing homelessness kind of in that area, whether they were accessing services with us or not. Once the pandemic hit, we really realized quickly that that model was not going to be safe.
Being open
Anywhere
to the was not
public,
safe.
because we had about, on any given day, about 350 people on our main floor in our building, and so we couldn't do social distancing. We couldn't do all the things that we were all having to very quickly learn how to do. So what we decided to do is that anyone that slept with us the night before, so we were sleeping about 150 people a night, anybody that slept with us the night before could remain on property the entire day. We would keep our doors open and keep our space available for anyone that slept with us. We would provide 3 meals a day. We'd do our best to continue to offer those wraparound services, even though the entire world was shutting down.
Right.
But we would stay the course and make sure that people had a safe place to stay. Because coincidentally, the pandemic also happened during a time when resources for folks experiencing homelessness, in terms of where they could go hang out during the day, were gone.
Right.
The public library downtown had closed for remodeling,
right.
which is a place a lot of folks would go to stay warm during the day. The plaza closed because of COVID. So right. There were just no places for people to go plug into. So
and use the bathroom.
Yeah, or take a shower,
or do
their laundry,
right.
or all of those really important
things that everybody needs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So we got to work really closely. Honestly, in a lot of ways, I kind of look back on those days with some fondness, because
the salad days.
The salad days.
Maybe not quite.
The work was just really focused. We got to really be tuned in to the everyday, because we didn't have to, there weren't a lot of the other issue. There's just, life is a lot busier now.
Right.
And that's true when
it was calmer. It was actually quieter and calmer then, because the world stopped.
Yeah. And we really just got to focus on how to serve people safely and how to do it well and how to make sure people were healthy throughout the pandemic. We did a lot to encourage people to engage in testing and in getting vaccinations, which we really did. We created this framework of really talking about care for your community, which really resonated with the people that we were serving. So they were really quick to engage with vaccinations. We had the highest vaccination rate of any shelter in our region.
Wow.
So those were really proud moments.
So people did okay.
People did okay. I will say, the homeless population, just like every other segment of our population, is an aging population. The experience of homelessness, I think, also exacerbates a lot of medical conditions.
Sure.
So it wasn't the immediate pandemic where we were seeing a lot of really critical health issues, and we weren't experiencing a lot of loss during that time.
Right. I recall, like, the first several months, everybody was doing okay.
Yeah.
At least.
But I feel like
anything.
what we are seeing now is that as people have kind of weathered the storm a little bit, and they're maybe getting the flu over the winter, or other sorts of medical conditions are worsening, and I think that a lot of that goes back to maybe a round of COVID that compromised them to an extent that they just can't rebound.
Well, we've had a couple chances to film over there, and I've been there, over the years several times, and I've never felt, like you said, I never felt like it's a scary place. It just isn't. But the perception is that it is, and the other perception, I think, is that every person who sits outside the fence of House of Charity actually goes in there. Don't they? I mean, the people that congregate near that aren't necessarily people that even use the services sometimes. Is that true, or is everybody?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a perception there, right?
Yeah. And I think that, and a thing that I think I didn't realize before I started working there, and I think that a lot of folks that just are driving by, zipping south on Brown to get home or whatever, what they don't realize is that a lot of vulnerable people who are not accessing services choose to still stay directly in the areas around House of Charity, because they know that we have video cameras, and they know that they feel safer, and they know that if something happens to them, we have staff that will respond, and they know that there will be video footage should something horrible happen to them.
But they don't use the services. They don't come in.
Right.
And you wish they would?
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I will say, for the most part, we are close to full most of the time. And
these, when you house 100 or so people at night, only men. Mm-hmm. And I think that surprised me too. I just didn't think about it. I was like, and I think that's important for people to know. This is really a men's shelter, correct?
We serve people that identify as male.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But and somewhere like Hope House would help those who identify as female.
Correct.
And I didn't really realize that was the case. And it kind of always has been, right? That's sort of been.
House of Charity was opened in 1968 as a men's only shelter. And, we've shifted that model just to be responsive to community need from time to time. When I got hired, we were providing services to women as well as men.
Okay.
And
that's why I thought that.
Yeah, that was a response to there being a significant need because Hope House was building their new facility. And we needed a place in our community for women to sleep.
That's right.
We had a contract for a couple of years to sleep women. And then when Hope House opened, all of the women transferred over to Hope House. But there's still a significant number of women experiencing homelessness in our city that have no place to stay.
Right.
Because Hope House is full.
Right. That's not an option for you.
Yeah, it's not an option at our facility. There's just a lot of challenge in finding a good spot for folks.
So, I'm in the story brand business.
Yeah.
When people hear the words House of Charity, what do you think they think? And this might go back to what you thought before you started working there, right?
Yeah, I think that people have a lot of preconceived notions about the people that we serve, and I think that gets transferred to their image of House of Charity. I also think people think of House of Charity exclusively as an emergency shelter, so a place where people sleep and probably get a meal. And I think they're not aware of all the other things that we do within our doors, because we do a lot. We have a lot of different programming. We have a medical respite program. We have a resident client program, which is a workforce development program. We have really robust wraparound services on site. And we're always looking for ways to add more and to do more and to help support and affirm the dignity of every person that walks through our doors.
What do you wish people know they don't know about the House of Charity, especially today? Because we had a chance to film a tour there that will hopefully probably get sent out to the world here. But I was kind of blown away by all the stuff. One of the things that surprised me were there are rules there. Mm-hmm. And I think people don't think there are.
Yeah.
Would that be true?
Yeah, we definitely have rules. They're very basic rules. And that is that you have to respect yourself, you have to respect others and the property. And if you can meet that standard, then you're welcome to stay. And we're low barrier, which means we don't require anyone to engage in a service or a chore in order to receive services. We allow people to bring pets on site. I think that's
cool.
Something that people don't understand or know about. That
No.
We know for a fact that if someone who has a pet has to make the choice between coming inside and staying warm for the night, but leaving their pet outside, or staying outside and camping with their pet, they will always choose the pet.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
Yeah, totally.
I totally understand that.
Totally.
I mean, that's probably everybody.
Yeah. So we've had all kinds of crazy animals.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
How did Camp Hope affect what you guys do?
Yeah, I think that Camp Hope really drove a community-wide conversation, which I think is super important.
Because as of this recording here, it's dropped from 650 to about 60 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is remarkable.
Yeah.
Wherever those folks ended up going. But
that's a success story in the works, for sure.
For sure. And some of them went to the Catalyst building, which, maybe we can talk about too. You may or may not know a lot about, but you probably know some about it anyway.
I've got enough on my plate.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. I'll make Rob come and talk about that.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Too many. Yeah. But yeah, what did that do? I mean, did it help? Did it hurt?
I think
people are certainly aware of the issue.
It made people aware of the issue, and I will say I think this is just me, Dena, saying this. I think it made people extremely uncomfortable because I think it made everybody
it was unavoidable.
Ponder what can we do to solve this problem? Because it couldn't be hidden away anymore.
Right.
It wasn't something that you could, like in my neighborhood.
It wasn't in the shadows like it was before you guys opened your doors that time.
Yeah. And it's not something that's easily explained because the needs of the people that we are serving and that Camp Hope is serving are very complex. And they're not something that can be, there's not a ready solution.
Right.
And it's not a one size fits all.
Right. Every situation's different.
Yeah.
What blew me away when we filmed there for our Housing and Help series was finding out that about half the people that lived there had jobs. Mm-hmm. And are there people that use your services that have jobs? Or is it
absolutely.
I don't think people think that.
Yeah. Well, I think the working poor is definitely represented at House of Charity.
Sure.
And across the homeless community, for sure.
Across America.
Yeah. Yeah. But we definitely, I think that's a misconception too, that people experiencing homelessness are lazy. My experience in serving this population is that many of them are working. Many of them are elderly. There's also a number that are struggling with co-occurring disorders and are not employment ready. That's not to say that they don't have dreams of someday working.
Right.
But in the moment, it wouldn't be appropriate.
And a percentage of them maybe could be ready to move into some sort of supportive housing, like the Havens downtown that Catholic Charities provides, or a number of different places. But what keeps that from happening? Is it just that there isn't room?
Yeah, it's exclusively because there's not room. There's not enough supply to meet the demand.
So if that were the case, if there was more housing, it would be a huge help.
Definitely. And I think that, those buildings downtown are supported by foundational community supports. And that work is really once a person gets into their own apartment, you think about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And once you can meet someone's very basic needs for survival, that's the time that you can start kind of digging in and providing support and start looking at and addressing those higher needs.
Right.
And so you could start supporting folks in working towards sobriety when that is their goal, or you could start working towards employment when that is an appropriate goal for them.
Once they're stable. Mm-hmm. And really, as whatever you guys do, you are providing some sort of stability, but not as much as if they'd had a home, if they're in their own place.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, I think that there's now kind of nationwide starting to be this understanding that this housing crisis is not specific to Spokane.
No.
This is definitely something experienced across the nation.
Absolutely. More
and more people are kind of in this state of perpetual waiting in a shelter system.
Yep.
So while we are housing first and we're housing focused and our work is to get someone into their own place.
That's your goal, yeah.
In the meantime, there's a lot of work that we can do to help support people's basic needs and start building relationship and trust so that we can start working and chipping away at some of those higher needs so that when they are ready and there is a place for them to plunk into,
they're more ready for it.
Yeah, they're more successful once they're there.
Right. I just interviewed Mandy Chapman-Semple, who really was one of the architects of Houston's model, and we filmed at Houston, but we never got all the leaders in Houston and how they've cut homelessness by 65%, while ours has gone up 65% in the last 10 years. And Mandy was here, and we talked about kind of that very thing. She goes, there was a big push when they first sort of had housing, and they had the benefit of housing, they had a benefit of capacity where we do not. Okay, 10 years ago. So we have different challenges, and nobody's pretending we're going to follow some roadmap that's just easy. But people were like, you can't just take a person who's been literally on the street and put them in housing. It won't work. And she said, it's exactly worked. She said 90% of those people now we didn't just put them in a place and shut the door and give them a key. We brought services that were vital to their survival and getting better and improving their lives. But 90% of them 2 years later are still housed. And many of them have moved on beyond that and out of the system, which is kind of the ultimate goal of everything that that everybody wants to try to accomplish. Yeah. So I don't think people realize that. I mean, we've learned so much, and I know just barely enough to be dangerous, and I don't know anything that you know about this issue, but that's one of the biggest things was literally filming at Camp Hope. It was, why are these people here? Well, they want to shut their door, and you go to a shelter, you don't have that opportunity. You are there with somebody, and you're sharing that space, and I guess I can understand that, everybody's got that need or not. So I think that's surprising. Did you get a chance to see any of our series, and what did we miss? If you saw Housing and Help, what did we miss? What have we not covered yet or missed? Because I don't know that we're done telling this story, and it's, to me, been my kind of part of my life's work the last couple of years, just to get the issue people aware at a basic level anyway.
Well, I will fully admit, I did watch the first episode, and I've kind of dipped in and out of some of the other episodes. That's
how most people have been sampling this. Yeah.
So, apologies.
No, hey, that's better than most, I would guess.
What I loved about the first episode is that you guys spoke to policy changes in our nation that really impacted funding for housing projects in the United States.
In the 1980s, especially.
Yeah, I mean, the resources that were meeting the demand for public housing at that time just continued to get cut and cut and cut cut. So
and behavioral health services.
Correct. Yeah.
And addiction services.
And I loved how you guys tied that to changes here in our own Spokane economy with Kaiser and all that stuff. I thought that was
good.
I really
good. Well, we just didn't understand, like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
How did we get here? Because it wasn't something that just happened overnight.
Yeah.
But boy, the last 5 years, it is way visible.
Yeah.
And our experience in Houston was, it is just not visible.
Yeah.
It is there, but it is not there the way it is here. And they're 10 times our size. And we are approaching about the same amount of people, if you can believe it. So, I mean, the fourth largest city in America, and they, on any given night, have about 3,500 homeless people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what ours is, but it's over 1,000.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that disparity, it's kind of amazing. And we are now, from what I understand, jumping into the top 10 of per capita mid and large size cities, the largest homeless populations in America right now. And so, what do you think we should do? Because, there's probably a lot of things, but you see it from a really different lens.
That's the $1 million question, right?
I know it's not one thing or 20 things. It's many things.
And I will be the first to say I am not an expert in this area. I am really still the new kid on the block.
I don't think there's a lot of people that are, honestly.
Yeah. I think you have to be understanding yourself as a learner.
Yeah, exactly.
You just have to be humble and accept that you will never be the expert.
Right.
Because the landscape is always changing.
Right.
But I think the one thing that would be incredibly helpful is for there to be a larger understanding that no one is pretending that shelters are an awesome solution.
Right.
However, shelters have always been historically grossly underfunded. And they do an incredible amount of work and provide a lot of support to communities in ways that I think really don't get captured or appreciated. So,
give me an example.
Well, I will tell you, House of Charity, I might get in trouble for saying this.
Well, we can edit some of this out, honestly. If we don't, you're lucky. That means that she and her team are very brave.
Of all the programs that Catholic Charities kind of oversees and takes ownership of. House of Charity struggles the most from a financial standpoint. Our deficit in our budget is, from a management standpoint, is an embarrassment.
Right.
But the reality is there's very little funding that supports essential services for shelters.
And Catholic Charities gets its funding where it gets its funding, grants and whatever availability.
I mean, it's a pretty diverse pool.
Yeah,
of
it's not like they're the
sources.
bank.
Yeah, private grants. We do so much hustling
Oh.
for private grants and looking for creative, innovative ways to provide services. So that we can be appealing from a grant standpoint, but also because that's the best way to provide services.
Yeah.
But then we also rely heavily on donors. So, and especially in today's market, I think, we are still a people that are pretty worn out from COVID experience.
Yeah.
And the notion of giving, and we're in this kind of financial crisis in our country, and so financial giving isn't what it was prior to the pandemic.
Absolutely.
So, there's a lot of ways we try to get very creative in scraping together services, but it still means that our staff could always be better supported. There can always be more staff on site. There could always be more case managers.
Right.
But I have a team of incredibly dedicated people who have a deep conviction to serve. And those people show up and work so hard. That is an incredible inspiration to me.
You were talking about, when we filmed you, your Stoke song.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the Stoke song story about what you do with your team? I think it's really cool.
Well, I think
because you guys are dealing with a lot.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier the burnout rate is high, and I want to work to keep people that are caring and compassionate. I want to keep them in their job.
Heck yeah.
So
you don't want them burning out. We all need them.
Yeah. How do we help and support them, and how do we respectfully let them know that we understand how difficult the work is, but help provide some support and tools so that they can enter the day with some brightness and some optimism. So I ask people to indulge me in choosing a Stoke song for the morning, which is simply find a song that you feel pumped up about and put that on in your drive to work in the morning and get excited to step into the next phase of your day.
Right.
What is your source of inspiration? It doesn't have to be a song. For some people, they wanted to listen to podcasts or do a meditation or whatever it is. But how do you prepare your mind to step into that space?
It is sort of like, the NFL player listening to his podcast, listening on his earphones before he's ready to go to battle.
Yeah.
mean, in your world, you guys go to battle every day, kind of.
I like to see it more
maybe it's not as negative a way to do it. But
I like to see it more as, how do you create a sacred space to step into?
There you
because
go.
What we really want
cool.
is to create a sacred space for the people we serve. We want people to come to us knowing that they can be safe, knowing that they can be heard and supported and really seen. And so in order to provide that kind of service to people, you have to be that kind of person.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's one of the things we wanted to do. I did, at least with Housing and Help, was to try to put a human face to this, because it's so easy to just ignore it, and drive by it and not look. And how do you guys do that? I mean, that's probably the biggest gift you give this unhoused population.
Yeah.
Letting them know that they're being seen, right?
Yeah.
One of them.
One of the things that House of Charity has always done this, and we've just kind of created kind of a more intentional approach to memorializing the people that we've lost. So we have a chaplain that works for the agency, and we work together to provide a memorial service that really honors who the person was in our community.
Wow.
And the intention is to honor who the person was, but also to reflect to our community that you will be honored and remembered in the same way this person was.
Oh,
because everybody matters, and everybody has a seat at this table at House of Charity. And one of the things that I shared in our last memorial was that some of the people that walk through our doors are here because they've experienced a bump in the road, and they've got a plan, and all they need is a little buoying up, and they're out and on their way. Other people walk through their doors, and they can be incredibly hard to love. But if we truly believe in our mission, which is affirming the dignity of every individual, then we have to accept that God or source or
the universe or
whoever,
whatever.
Yeah, however you identify that entity in the world, that presence can see the true value of even the most difficult person. And so at House of Charity, we believe in the things that we can't see. We believe that every person brings value to our community. Even if that means that that person teaches us how to do our job better. Mm-hmm. Because maybe we couldn't de-escalate a situation that allowed them to stay. But maybe we could learn from that experience.
And help the next person.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's really, really cool. What do you wish people know they don't know about House of Charity? You probably said a lot of it.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I just would really love for people to know that there's really innovative work happening there. There is a vast array of services that we offer that support people at every stage. We have that medical respite program, and that program serves people that are recuperating from injury or illness. So the analogy that I always use is, Frank, if you broke your leg and you needed, after surgery, you went home, you'd get to go home and lie on your couch, and nice people would come bring you soup and help you get to the doctor and help you manage life.
I have a support system.
Yeah. So House of Charity functions as that support system for people that are experiencing homelessness. And we have an opportunity at that time to really engage with people at a deep level and help support them in becoming independent in managing their medical issues, but also help them see that this could be a safe place. And our hope is that they continue to engage in services with us when they're done with their respite time. And most of them do. I shared earlier that we have that workforce development program on site, which has...
I did not know that. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. A lot of the folks come to us with some gaps in their work history, or they've maybe lost confidence that they can be a viable employee. A lot of the folks that we serve, it's very easy to identify a homeless individual when they walk into an interview, because they've got all their bags, they've got all their stuff, they haven't been able to shower.
They're carrying their house with them.
They feel so much stigma attached to them that there's a real need for confidence, that they have what it takes to get that job. So our RC program really serves that function, connecting people to training programs. We've helped people get GEDs, all things to just really help support folks.
That must be pretty cool when you see somebody get through that.
Oh man, it's amazing.
Started there and end up with a job.
Well, the cool thing is that you see that confidence. You see that confidence grow. Like
I would bet nobody knows that that's going on there. I mean, if you polled 99% of the people in this town have no idea that there are people that walk in that door homeless and that walk out someday with a job.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
There's one person in particular that just went through a WSDOT program called PEP, which is an employment training program working to connect folks to apprenticeship positions, doing things like forklift operation, masonry, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Trades.
Yeah, but specifically designed to get them in trades that pay a living wage, and also a connection to state employment.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So that was a really cool opportunity. We had one person in particular that had been with us for a while, was a part of the resident client program, and I would say was a pretty shut down individual. Just really not certain what the next steps were.
Confidence
Clearly
gone,
yeah, just had kind of been leveled by the cards he'd been dealt. By the end of that program and at his graduation from the PEP training, he was a radically different person.
Oh, yeah.
So much so that he not only was offered a paid apprenticeship, he was offered a paid job upon completion of his apprenticeship.
Wow.
And he's up and out. And I mean, he graduated last month and he's already
That's
out and on his way.
We got to tell that story.
It's amazing.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
We did one of the other programs the House of Charity or Catholic Charities has is the Rising Strong program. I think I might have talked about this on here before, but it's a phenomenal program where mostly you're talking about families, husbands and wives that have been separated a lot of times through addiction and have been separated from themselves, from each other, and from their kids. And their option is you're going to jail, or you're going to go into this program that Catholic Charities puts on, and it brings the family back together over a year. To a point where they are stable, they get educated, they get job opportunities, all this stuff. And we filmed a couple that had just gone through their first year of that. And they were really incredible. And they were also really sort of still fragile. Like you could tell, not that they were not stable in their addiction was gone. You could tell. I mean, I could just tell these people are back awake and alive and contributing. But they don't know what's next. Because they're going to leave this really cocoon program and go to this new place. The new place they went was Gonzaga Family Haven. So being able to see those people, when I interviewed them, and they'd already gone through, I don't even imagine what they would have been like to have interviewed them the first day they walked in there. Because they were a shell probably of who they were even a year later. But one of them, I got a chance to, 6 months later, we went back to Gonzaga Family Haven and interviewed the people there. And these two people we filmed them again. I think it was about 6 months later. Now having lived at Gonzaga Family Haven a year after they had come out of Rising Strong, and I'm like, hey, we're gonna film, but we'd like to film here at our studio. Can they come in? And she walks in the door here, and I did not recognize her. I was like, is that her? I filmed her a year ago, 6 months ago. That is not the same person. I mean, just
That's so
visibly.
Cool. Yeah.
Confident, looks, she just was like she's running a company, and that is not the scared person or unsure person that she had been a year ago. And 2 years ago had been really under the influence of drugs and to a point where she was losing her kids. Yeah. So, I mean, it's possible. And I think people don't think it's possible. They just think, those are not even people, and they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. They make it through.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, and they already have everything they need. I mean, they already have all that they need inside of them. And what they really need are people that can support and keep pointing to that thing that's already inside of them and to really boost their confidence in what they already possess.
So you're good at this. I always ask this question, but if you could wave your magic wand, what would Dena Carr do for maybe the situation of homelessness, period, but at least House of Charity? What would you love to have happen that you don't have? What do you need? What do you want? I mean, I'm hearing dollars would be nice.
Yeah.
Probably volunteers would be nice. I mean, what do you need to really have this place take another step?
Well, I mean, dollars and volunteers are awesome. Of course, we would love that. I think one thing that I'm really excited about in terms of kind of the next steps for House of Charity is we are working to establish a hospice program on site at House of Charity. Currently, in our network of community services, there's really nothing serving the needs of individuals who are experiencing homelessness, but are also facing the end stages of life. And because we affirm the dignity of every person, that means for me,
they matter every bit as much as that guy that went through that program and now has a job.
That we're finding a way to really honor and support and care for people at that point in their life as well.
Sort of hospice, nearing hospice.
I want to actually provide hospice services. I'm actually going to school right now.
That is a great idea.
I'm actually going to school right now to become a chaplain so that I can provide chaplaincy.
Of course you are.
Hospice. Yeah.
You're still doing it.
Yeah.
The fencing classes, the Dutch oven cooking. You did that. Remember?
Oh, I remember.
The other thing I remember about you is I was in the. We went through the Olympic rainforest. We went on spring break with our kids.
Yeah.
Jane and
Roger.
So my daughter Emma and your son Oscar, for some reason, they decided that they became over this 3 or 4 days Jane and Roger. Right. And they only referred to themselves as Jane and Roger. Which now every time I just think of Oscar as Roger. He's totally a different person by now. But I remember being there, and for some reason, there's a hot tub outside, and it was like deep forest, man. They were like wild. There was crazy how wild that place was, and it was really cool in this awesome house. And I mean, we shared like three families like shared this place, right? And it had like a ropes course and everything. And you and I, everybody had left the hot tub, and we were in the hot tub, and we're just like, oh, this is great. And all of a sudden, we hear this. Some kind of, do you remember this? Oh. And I was like, holy shit, we got to get out of here now. What was that? And I'm like, I am so scared right now. And you were less scared than I was.
No, I don't remember it this way.
Do you remember that? What do you remember?
Well, I remember Johanna was still in the hot tub with us, and you guys were both like, that was such a weird noise. I wonder what that was. I was like, I'm out of here.
Maybe that's what it was.
Not waiting around to find out.
That was what it was. I just know you were there.
I've seen this movie.
And I'm not going to be lunch.
Going inside.
It was bad. It was so dark and so scary. I'm like, I'm just out of here, man.
Yeah.
This west side, it was too west side for me.
Yeah. Very rainforesty.
Too rainforesty. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So how can people help? How can a guy like me help at House of Charity? What could we do? What do you know? Because people are like, yeah. But I mean, there's a lot there.
There's a lot of like really tangible ways people could come help. And that would be just helping essential services, like we have a resource room where people can get personal hygiene items.
So they take a shift.
Yeah, they could take a shift there. They could take a shift working in our kitchen.
Cool.
They could take a shift helping with check-in at night. So really concrete ways people can help. I'm also all about clubs at House of Charity. We encourage our staff to do this, but we also encourage anyone that comes through interested in volunteering. If you're passionate about crochet, if you have like a extensive knowledge of, I don't know, Roman history, and you want to come teach a class on Roman history.
Oh, that's cool.
Whatever your interest and passion might be, it would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come offer a class or a club or some way that people can engage in an activity and participate. It's people want and are kind of desperate for something interesting to fill their day. And there's nothing more interesting than someone sharing a passion. So I'm always trying to get folks to come in, and whatever it might be.
I think you were stuck in the 50s, like back when there were, like the water buffalo.
Yeah.
You would have been the grand poobah of a water buffalo. You know what I mean? Like you're right. Like just the clubs and the cocktail parties and right. I mean, that's kind of what you need. We've lost community.
Yeah, my vision of House of Charity is really that it function as a community center that just happens to sleep people at night.
That's a better way to look at it.
People really just want to feel invested in things. They want to feel like they're participating and involved and contributing. And my staff is awesome and great, and they run a gardening club, they run a music club, we have a ping pong club, like you name it. But we can't run all the clubs.
Right, you're busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come share what's cool in your life.
That's cool. Because I do think we touched on this a little bit in our first episode, the one that you watched, about the eroding of the fabric of sort of a safety net of family and friends that aren't there anymore. And that's a lot of these people.
Yeah.
That something goes wrong in your life. The majority of people are one accident away, one car going down away from missing a day at work, and then therefore losing their job, and now they don't have a place to live. I mean, the dominoes can go pretty quick in a way that they never would have 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that if I don't have a place to live, well, we'll take you in, doesn't happen as much anymore. And I'm, a lot of reasons why, but there just isn't that safety net. And I think you're sort of maybe trying to rebuild that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we definitely function as that safety net for folks.
Yeah. I mean, the elks and moose and eagles lodge are not there anymore. I mean, seriously,
true.
My grandparents and my parents, that was a huge part of their lives.
Yeah.
Were these social clubs, and people did help each other. Churches, I mean, that community is not what it was. It's different now. And I think that's a cool way to put it. Like, we're going to build a community here, and we need more, just as much help there as you do anything else, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well,
that's a really cool way to look at it.
I think separate from, like, everybody leads super busy lives, and maybe it's not within the scope of your availability to come directly to the shelter. What I also ask people to do, and what would be extremely valuable in supporting the work that we do, is just simply to take a moment and recognize that people that are experiencing homelessness are people that are going through sometimes the hardest day of their life. The experience of homelessness itself is extremely traumatic. And when people are suffering, they deserve compassion. They deserve all the things that we feel we would want if we were suffering. Just a little tenderness, just a little space.
Benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, just a little space and time to get into a different place of their lives. I think as a community, we are so fractured. We are so removed from one another. This conversation happens all the time. This is not.
No.
But social media makes it really easy for us to be hypercritical when people look different or seem different or have a different opinion. But I would just ask people to take a break from that immediate judgment and just consider what it might be like to be experiencing extreme suffering.
And it's also does not substitute for community.
Right.
Social media is not community.
Yeah.
And I think people think, oh, I'm connected. I said happy birthday to them or whatever, platform. That's not the same thing as actually going down there and sharing something with a group of people. Like, it's just, I think people are craving it at every level, and sort of afraid to step back in and do that, honestly.
Yeah.
But I think that's such a needed thing, to have people just kind of connect again, and I think that's a cool opportunity. If people want to do it, they can do it. The thing I will say, you don't have to comment on this or not if you don't want to, but my office was right across the street for 8 years of the House of Charity, and I got to see an erosion, clearly, of and at times not always at once. Like, it got better sometimes. And we would be visited regularly by security team that you guys have, who would come over and go, hey, just checking in, everything okay? Like, you guys all right? Because we are right across the street, and we know that, not everybody that is hanging out here, most of them are really not our residents, but we want you to know that we've got help here, and that you guys do kind of patrol the area and you do check it out. I always thought that was really cool, and I think that still goes on to this day. The other thing is, that's a really dangerous intersection. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I saw personally, just walking to my car in the parking lot, people nearly get run over and killed there. And maybe from like, I just don't care or I don't see them, or it is a tough intersection to drive through. It is. But I would just ask people, pass the word to, when you approach Pacific and Brown or whatever, either side of that there are real people trying to get across there, and it's impossible to get across there. And these are not people that are always, that for the healthiest of people, it's tough. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that. You probably can't, and I wouldn't blame you if you don't. But I'm at least asking that. Like, I think it's a really, be careful when you drive there.
Yeah.
And slow down.
Well,
and
I think
stop.
the inclination as you're driving through that area is to speed up as you're going under that railroad.
I got to make the light or whatever. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Right. You kind of a little ramp.
Yeah.
You kind of do. Yeah. Oh, I do
and
it still.
There's poor visibility there. And I will say...
You're coming out of a tunnel, light change. Yeah.
Had to go respond to so many people who have been hit by cars in that intersection who are crossing legally in the crosswalk. Even, there's 4 lanes of traffic that run through there, and 2 lanes had stopped, but then the third doesn't stop and the person gets hit.
Oh, man.
I have had, we have lost several people who have been literally killed in that intersection.
That were
no fault of their own.
That were patrons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what's heartbreaking, talking about social media, is that there's groups on Facebook that like to talk about stuff in the community, and people get on those groups and start saying things like, the people in that area just like to jump out in front of cars to get an insurance claim. And I would say...
I've never seen that.
No. I have not seen that. What I have seen multiple times...
That's crazy.
...are people being literally hit, injured, and killed in that intersection, crossing legally in that crosswalk. So thanks, Frank. That's a good PSA. Slow down.
Slow down at Pacific and Brown.
Yeah. Pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes. Just, take your Stoke song down.
Yeah. You need a different
What was
Stoke
your Stoke
song
song today? What's your latest Stoke song?
Oh, gosh.
You got to share it, and then we'll end.
Well...
We could talk to you forever, but... I want to know your
Bill
favorite.
Withers' "Lovely Day" is probably my favorite.
Such a great song.
Yeah, I love that song.
Dude, that has survived. Like one-hit wonder of all. That's probably the greatest one-hit wonder ever. I guess Bill Withers had more than one hit.
Yeah, I think
he did. He had a few.
Yeah.
But still. All right. Anything I missed?
I don't think so.
You get to just feel better.
It's always great.
You got the toughest job in the world, probably. I don't want to make it sound like it's, it's not. It's the perfect job for you.
Yeah.
But, great people arise at the right spot, and you're in the right spot, I think. I'm really proud of you.
Well, I feel super fortunate in that really I do get to support the hardest, most dedicated team of people. So, they are the wind beneath my wings. I hope that I'm the wind beneath theirs, and together we hope that we make a small difference. So. And
Canasta Club at House of Charity, Tuesdays at 7.
My Canasta days. I know. I need
start that.
I need to do a deep dive.
We need a Canasta. Anybody out there? We need a Canasta expert.
We do. Definitely.
Well, cheers. Thanks for being here.
Cheers, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good to see you.
Okay. MIP Podcast was filmed at the studio of Corner Booth Media. Please sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere podcasts can be found. We'd love it if you'd rate, review, and subscribe to help our podcast grow. Be good to yourself and stay interesting.